Tonight, 5 police officers injured during an incident in Port Augusta, and a man rushed to hospital after a truck carrying fuel crashes in Port Pirie.
From our 7 Spencer Golf studios, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Good evening. 5 police officers have been injured in a violent disturbance at a Port Augusta home overnight. A 32-year-old man and 2 women were arrested over the alleged incident. Garth Burley has more.
Just before 11 p.m. last night, this street was thrown into chaos as police attempted to apprehend a man allegedly breaching an intervention order. Affected by alcohol, the 32-year-old man became increasingly aggressive towards authorities who were attempting to arrest him. 2 women from the Beerworth Street address, aged 34 and 43 years old, then made their way onto the street, hindering the arrest and allegedly assaulting police by throwing punches and spitting on officers.
Police used an ECD, more commonly known as a taser, and OC spray in order to contain the situation.
The 3 were eventually taken into custody and charged with a raft of offences, including aggravated assault of police and hindering arrest, while the man also faced additional charges of breaching an intervention order. 5 police officers attended the hospital where they were treated for minor injuries.
But the guys did go and get checked out, cuts and bruises, but nothing too serious, thankfully.
The man was refused police bail, while the 2 women were bailed to appear in the Port Augusta Magistrates Court at a later date.
Whyalla Police is searching for those responsible for stealing jewellery and other property from a home last week. Around 9 o'clock last Thursday morning, a person entered a home on Schultz Street and stole a number of items. They included necklaces, bracelets, a Gucci watch and a PlayStation 4. CCTV captured the intruder, who was wearing black pants, a black jacket with a hood over their head. Anyone with information should call Crime Stoppers. A 40-year-old man has sustained serious back injuries and was airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital after a truck crashed this morning. Hundreds of litres of fuel have been lost after the truck crashed into water near Port Pirie.
At 1 a.m. this morning, emergency services rushed to the scene of a crash just off the Augusta Highway at the Rocky River Bridge upgrade site. A 2-carriage road train has come off the road, plummeting off a steep riverbank and into a creek bed. The 40-year-old driver has been airlifted to the Royal Adelaide Hospital after sustaining serious injuries to his back and hip. As you can see behind me, there's quite a distance between the road and where the truck crashed. There's no physical tire marks on the ground, with investigators still determining the cause of the incident. 750 litres of diesel has spilt into the waterway, requiring a hazmat team to travel from Adelaide for clean-up.
The prime mover of the Double B had ruptured, and also an oil filter had fallen off the engine and spilled oil into the creek bed as well.
Thankfully, the creek bed is currently stagnant due to the drought, meaning the site of contamination is easy to contain.
They'll be looking at purifying the water to get it back to its original state, and they'll also be doing the same for any soil and rocks that have been covered in oil and diesel.
It's the second truck to have crashed at the construction site in a number of months. A temporary detouring lane has been erected while upgrades to the Rocky River Bridge are being made. Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Whyallah's By the Sea concert has been declared a success, with council already looking to next year. It's confirmed discussions have begun with promoters, and local businesses are also keen for its return.
Host it and they will come. The By the Sea concert has been declared a success.
Council invested $50,000. If you look at the impact that that small amount of expenditure has had on our community, it was a very valuable investment.
4,000 passed through the gates on the day, with up to half estimated to have been tourists. 2 local stores reportedly sold out of deck chairs, while chemists, petrol stations and bars all benefited. Barbara Darren from the Tourist Focus Group says the weekend hit the right note.
I've spoken to the majority of hotels and accommodation houses. Everyone was full. Full occupancy.
As the curtain falls on this year, sights have been turned to the future. Council and promoter Zachariah Entertainment are working together to bring the event back for up to 3 more years, and other promoters have the city on the map.
We've seen a shift from us having to go out and clamour for events to actually events promoters approaching us now.
The prospect of more events is music to Ms Derham's ears.
They were absolutely fantastic, and we're hoping that something special will happen next year, and I think this is what the city needs.
John Hunt, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
60 businesses in the Port Augusta region have come together for the Regional Voice Forum to plan for the future. Organisers say many employers are facing significant and ongoing issues.
For North Point Toyota's Tony Robinson, he's confident of a rosy future.
I think there's a great positive feel around the town and the region at the moment. I think it's an exciting time for local businesses.
And despite experiencing an economic plunge after the closure of the power station, he says many businesses are now rebuilding and growing from strength to strength.
Just talking to local businesses, hearing local businesses wanting to put on, extra staff.
North Point was just one of 60 businesses who attended the Regional Voice Forum overnight, which comes off the back of a new report by Business SA discussing the positives and negatives throughout the region. Organisers say the night was about connecting local operators together, but the spike in the costs of water and electricity and council rates are all concerns that have been flagged.
And people are nodding when you talk about the cost of power, and people are talking about the charges and fees that they face as well.
75% of businesses in the north are also struggling to cope with skills shortages. The state's peak industry body will now take these issues to all levels of government to lobby for change.
So when it comes to things like state budgets, we can talk to ministers and we can put them our wish lists, and they do actually listen to what we say.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Local councils are rallying together and calling on the government to extend the Supplementary Road Fund. The plan currently provides $20 million to South Australian councils for road upgrades.
It's the uncertain future of road funding that's got councils worried. With the June 30 end date fast approaching, many are venting their frustration.
Got to decide if that doesn't get put in place, either rates will go up or the level of standard delivered for their roads will be lower.
In 2017, the government announced that $20 million would be available to local councils for the state's road network. But it was only promised to be available in the 2018 and 19 budget.
So the current agreement does run out at the end of June, and that will mean that unless it's actually put back in place, there'll be a $20 million shortfall.
The Supplementary Road Fund was put in place by the federal government to balance out deficiencies within the National Road Formula, an important policy within South Australia as the state only receives a small percentage of road funding.
Road fund has been put in place to equalise that out and make sure South Australian councils are getting their fair share.
If the fund isn't continued within the next budget, it could mean drastic consequences for our road network. Sam Telfer says he's lobbying with both sides of federal parliament to get the funding.
We need to work with our federal and state counterparts and get this funding reinstated, at least in the short term, if not permanently.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, Broken Hill's Jubilee Oval in a race against time to be ready for their footy season. And Port Pirie hosts a regional roads show, encouraging men to seek help for their mental health. Welcome back. One of Broken Hill's major cricket and football grounds is currently struggling to stay green. All summer sport has been kicked off the Jubilee Oval, while its water system undergoes urgent repairs.
Green in some places, dry as a bone in others. The summer hasn't been particularly enjoyable at Jubilee Oval. A broken pressure filter saw it swelter through multiple weeks without water.
You can imagine laying out here for 5 weeks without getting a drink. Yeah, that's what the Oval's in.
And it hasn't got any easier. The dams that supply the Oval were cleaned out in anticipation for the Wentworth pipeline coming online. As a result, clay has washed through the pipes, blocking vital irrigation valves.
Once we get 1 or 2 solenoids that are blocked, it trips out the electrical system because you've got two lines, irrigation lines going at the same time.
The valves are located underneath the playing surface. Mr Johnston believes he's found the two that are the problem. One replacement is expected to be installed tomorrow, another is due to arrive in a few days. For the time being, the remaining cricket season matches and pre-season footy training have been relocated.
I'm hoping with replacing these two solenoids we'll be back watering properly and be able to get some decent water onto the ground.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Local men have gathered in Port Pirie for the Save Our Mates event to talk about health and looking out for one another. They hope to improve the mental health of men in need across the Spencer Gulf.
A mission to save our mates. Country Health SA Primary Health Network has organised a public speaking tour across the Spencer Gulf.
Giving the community the tools and the tricks to better confront this stuff before it escalates into serious mental health issues.
On Tuesday night, Port Pirie's revamped Memorial Oval hosted its first function. 2 public speakers from Adelaide shared their stories of hardship to an audience of local men.
The ability for me at that point to pick up the phone and ring my dad or my brother or my best mate was not an option.
Reality was, when I got behind the closed doors, I couldn't stand the sight of myself because I was struggling mentally and emotionally, and I needed some help.
The roadshow aims to counter stigmas affecting men in regional South Australia, one of the most vulnerable demographics to depression and suicide. It hopes to encourage individuals to keep an eye on their mates and to offer a helping hand when needed.
Those that have grown up in my era and even quite a few years later have had to deal with the stigma and the suck it up.
Helping Our Mates will be on the road until March the 22nd. The tour will be stopping over in Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Lincoln over the coming days. Anyone who is suffering from depression should contact their local GP or call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The Masters Games is returning to the Mid-North after a 7-year hiatus, and Port Pirie is set to play host. The local council is encouraging locals to get involved in the competition, which kicks off on the 5th of April.
It's a 10-day event. Registrations are now open, so you can go to portpiriemastersgames.com.au and register online, or you can come into the Tourism and Visitor Centre in Port Pirie and get a hard copy book.
Residents can participate in up to 29 different sports, ranging from golf, tennis, equestrian and BMX bicycle motocross. Council also says it's a unique opportunity to compete against state athletes from across the state. Broken Hill's local councillors will hold their first meeting of 2019 this evening. There's plenty on the agenda, including new lights at the Alma Oval and the Visitor Information Centre. Patrick Reinke has the details.
There are only 2 ovals in Broken Hill that have proper lights, the Jubilee Oval and here at Memorial. But could the Alma Oval soon be receiving some illumination? As part of the Jube's multi-million-dollar upgrade, AFL Broken Hill has gifted council with the ground's old light towers that'll be replaced. The league has suggested council install them at the Alma, saying it'll be great for the local sporting community. But council is not too keen, tabling a report that lists a number of high costs as the reason not to accept them. The report is expected to spark debate, as will a motion put forward by Councillor Tom Kennedy. He's calling for council to make a promise to not demolish the Visitor Information Centre after it was speculated the site may be used for a new police station. He is also requesting council rule it out as a potential site. If the motion is passed, it would affect council's cultural framework, which councillors will also be voting to endorse tonight. Mr Kennedy will also put forward a motion calling for City Council to explore options to start a class action lawsuit against the state government and Murray-Darling Basin Authority for alleged mismanagement of the river and lake system. The meeting will be held in the Broken Hill Council chambers.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll check the latest fuel prices, and Britt will join us with the region's weather forecast. Thanks for joining us. Time now for Fuel Watch. Here's Patrick in Broken Hill.
It hasn't been a good week for local petrol prices. Expect shopper dockets to become more popular in the coming days. Starting with unleaded, and Kadina is the only one to see some green, but still averages $1.29. The rest of the Spencer Gulf has gone up. Port Lincoln and Port Pirie have both jumped by 2 cents. Whyalla and Port Augusta are up by about 1. Here in Broken Hill, it's still around the 1.37 price mark. Meanwhile, in Adelaide, the state capital has spiked by 16 cents. Turning over to diesel now, and Whyalla has seen a big drop in its price, while Port Lincoln and Port Augusta broke even. Port Pirie and Kadina are now up to 1.41. Here in the Hill, we're almost into the 1.50 price range. Adelaide has seen a change of about 2 cents. And finishing off with a look at LPG, Port Lincoln is now up to 92 cents a litre. After a 6 cent decline, Whyalla is down to 93 cents. Port Augusta and Port Pirie have seen no movement this week. Kadina and Broken Hill are recording a bit of green. Adelaide rounds out the board with the smallest of changes. The average, though, is still 81 cents. Now remember, these prices are the regional averages and they do not reflect any one particular outlet. And if you do find a spot that does sell unleaded, diesel or auto gas for cheaper, be sure to let us know on our Facebook page.
And time to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Britt.
Well, Louise, we've had a mostly sunny day across the Gulf, with Port Augusta reaching a top of 28 degrees, Whyalla 25, Port Lincoln 24, Broken Hill 28, Port Pirie 27, Adelaide fine and 23. On the satellite today, the odd patch of cloud over the southeast, with clear skies over the remainder of the region under high pressure. Looking at the waters for tomorrow, southerly winds shifting southwesterly at up to 25 knots, seas at 1.5 metres. Sunrise is due at 6:58 in the morning with sunset after 8 p.m. And it's looking to be a mostly sunny day tomorrow. Port Augusta will warm up to 31 degrees, Whyalla 27, partly cloudy at Port Lincoln with a top of 25, Coffin Bay also 25, Woodner 32, Corn 31, Broken Hill and Port Pirie both sunny and 30, Clare 28, Cleve 24, Kadina 29 and Adelaide mostly fine 27. Looking ahead now to the end of the week, mostly fine for Port Lincoln, 27 on Friday before warming up on Saturday. Cleve will be mostly sunny, set to warm up again for the weekend, and some hot days coming up for Woodner, 36 on Friday and 39 on Sunday. 27 and sunny in Whyalla tomorrow, and those temperatures will remain warm and sunny for the rest of the week. Port Augusta 39 by the end of the week, and temperatures consistent for Kadina in the 30s. Port Pirie warming up for the end of the week, a fine weekend ahead. The same for Clare with temperatures in the 30s, and Broken Hill 34 for both days across the weekend. And that's all for today's weather, Louise. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Britt. And that's your local news this Wednesday evening. We thank you for your company. We'll have updates later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.